Hello, welcome to More Yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're doing well. And if not, if like me, you are on the long road of recovering from having caught SARS-CoV-2 or SARS-2 COVID-19, um, take it easy. And so that's what we're going to do today. Really gentle sort of stretch to come back from being ill because that's probably all that I can muster up today, but hopefully it will feel really nice for you as well. So I've got lots of props here today, as you can see. A pillow, or if you have a bolster, that would be even better just because the length of it. Blocks, something to kneel on if you want to. Again, it's going to be pretty gentle, mostly just about getting into a little bit of stretching of the low body and the neck and shoulders. So to start, I'm going to do that sort of thing where we set up the blocks in kind of an elevated way so that you can lie back on whatever you have, right? Could be a couple pillows, it could be one pillow, it might not be anything, and that's okay too. But the little bit of elevation is going to help open up into the chest and shoulders. And then we'll lie back when you're ready. It always takes a little bit of figuring out the balance point. And then you might take a couple snow angels with your arms just to see if there's a position that feels a little bit more delicious across the chest and the fronts of the shoulders for you. And your legs could be extended, your knees could be bent. Some of you might take the soles of your feet together and the knees wide in more of a butterfly position. And wherever you have decided to land, and take your time if you're still finding your position. But once you've found a place that feels like you can be still for a few moments, then for a couple breaths, inhale through your nose and exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And continue breathing however feels best for you. It could be in and out through your nose or your mouth, particularly if you're stuffed up. Don't force the breath through the nose. And then notice how it's feeling. Right? How is your breath flowing? And there's no need to change it. And there's nothing, you don't need to come at it with judgment, right? If it feels sticky or choppy, that's okay. Right? If it feels really open and spacious, that's okay. Right? None of these sensations will last forever, right? The good, the bad, all of it will pass. So accept it for what it is right now. It might be shallow, it might be deep, it might be ragged, it might be smooth. Naturally, though, as we start to focus on the breath, it tends to slow down. It might not deepen, but maybe you notice the rise and fall of your belly or chest. Maybe you feel a slightly deeper opening across the chest and shoulders with every inhale. And the softening of your front body with every exhale. A few more breaths here. And then by all means, stay here longer if you would like to. You can pause the video if you wish. Otherwise, when you feel ready, start to bring just the smallest movement back into your body. Enough that you can eventually bend your knees and roll sideways off of your props. And then moving as little as possible, remove them out from underneath of you. It doesn't help if you have a lot of props, like I did. If you have just one bolster, it's a bit easier. And then come back onto your back. So a few breaths here, just with a neutral spine. And then start to draw your knees in toward your chest and take a little rock from side to side. It might feel good to have your knees quite close toward you, getting a massage a little bit higher up in the back. Or maybe you have your knees a little bit further away, maybe even arm's length away, getting more into the sacrum and the pelvis. Right? And it might feel really different today than it did the last time you did this, right? Particularly if it's been a while. Excuse me. And then reach your legs up to the sky. You can reach your arms up to the sky as well. Let the shoulder blades straight back to the earth so there's ease. And your knees can be deeply bent, right? They don't need to be straight. You might just start to circle the wrists and the ankles, or point and flex the toes, or really splay the toes or the fingers and then scrunch them all. You might even shake everything out. Right? And just starting to gently wake up your body. All right. And then bend your knees again and bring your feet to the floor. So keep your left foot where it is and interlace your hands over top of your right shin, drawing your knee toward your chest. Drape your shoulder blades down your back, so you don't want them scrunching up, right? We just loosened up into those chest muscles, so let's try not to tighten back into them. This might be enough of a hip opener for you. If you would like to deepen it, then you could extend the left leg along the floor, reach the heel away from you, and peel your toes back toward your face. So the left leg is really active. And maybe this feels good. Maybe you start to deepen the compression on the front of that hip by drawing your knee closer toward you. And it's this compression sensation that triggers the synovial fluid to flow a little bit more, to lubricate your joints a little bit more. And then for the last couple of breaths, if you wish, you might gently curl your nose up toward your knee, right, without extra straining or tension. And if your head is lifted, bring it back down to the floor. From here, take your right thumb, hook it into the right hip crease as a reminder to sort of wrap that hip down and out and down, rather, to the mat. And then keeping your right hip glued to the mat, start to draw your knee over to the left shoulder. So you're only really drawing it slightly across the center line of your body, rather than it being a full twist where you lift the right hip up, right? So keep, as much as you're drawing that knee toward your left shoulder, can you think of drawing that hip back down to the mat? And you might be feeling some tension here on the outside edge of your right thigh, right? It might feel like IT band, but it's really the muscles that attach into the IT band that you're getting at here. Last breath here. All right, and then take your knee all the way out to the right this time. You could bend your left knee and let it wing out to the side a little bit, kind of as a counterbalance or a 2-for-1 stretch, or maybe you keep that left leg extended on the floor. You could draw little circles here with the right thigh bone just to release any tension in that hip. And then start to draw your right knee back to the back right corner of your mat a little bit more. This is a lovely place to stay. Or you might choose to kick that right foot up to the sky and take some variation of half happy baby, whether you grab the back of the thigh or somewhere along the leg, the ankle, or the foot, knowing no, that half happy baby is way more intense than full happy baby. So don't feel like you need to go right into this sort of end range of your posture here. Shoulder blades down your back. All right, release your right leg, shake both legs out. And then let's do all that on the opposite side. So start with the right foot on the floor, knee bent, and interlace your hands over top of the left shin. Maybe you take the opposite interlacing of the fingers just to balance out the neuromuscular pathways. Again, this might be enough here as you draw your shin toward you a little bit more, kind of snuggling into that space. You might extend the right leg away from you on the earth, flexing the toes back toward you as you reach the heel away from you. Again, loop your shoulder blades down your back. Maybe you deepen that compression a little bit or a lot, so long as it's pain-free, right? Discomfort is different, but definitely pain-free. And then for the last couple of breaths, if you wish, again, you don't need to, you might gently curl your nose toward your knee, right? Without taking the tension into the neck and shoulders. All right, and then bring your head back down to the mat. Take your left thumb, hook it into the hip crease on that left hip. Wrap the outer left hip out and down to the mat, and then start to draw the left knee over toward your right shoulder. And again, this is not getting very far across the center line of my body here, 5, maybe 10 degrees. So as much as you're drawing the left knee toward your right shoulder, wrap the outer left hip back down to the mat. We really want to get into those muscles that attach the IT band. Even if you haven't been sick at home this last week or so, right? If you've been running or biking, this sort of stretch can get really deep into those muscles that can be so tight. All right, and then take your left knee all the way out to the left. Now maybe draw a couple little circles here just to release anything that got stuck. Again, you're welcome to bend the right knee as well and have the right knee hanging out to the side, kind of creating almost a hammock with your adductors, or keep reaching the right leg away from you. And then draw your left knee back to the back left corner of your mat a little bit more. This is a lovely place to stay. Or if you wish to, you might kick the foot up to the sky and grab somewhere along the leg, the ankle, or the foot for your half happy baby. Last couple of breaths here. All right, gently release your left leg. Shake out both legs. You might grab the back of your thighs here and start to rock and roll up and down your spine if that feels good. If not, roll to one side and press yourself up. Then we'll meet on hands and knees. As always, you might bring extra padding underneath your knees if you wish, a pillow or block, or even double up your mat, particularly if you have quite a thin mat and on a hardwood floor like I am, can be pretty thin. Not much comfort there sometimes. And then eventually we'll sit up with knees underneath hips. Toes can be tucked or untucked, and hands outer shoulder width apart or wider. Spread your fingers really wide, and we'll start to move through cat and cow. So inhale, lift the tailbone, hollow through your lower back, broaden through your collarbones. Exhale, tuck your tailbone under, round through the spine. Really press the floor away from you. And then inhale into cow. Exhale, round into cat. So a few more of these on your own time, on your own breath. You might take a little wiggle from side to side here, or add some other natural movement that would feel really good on your body. But it's starting to get more movement through the spine, through the shoulders and the hips. Last breath here. All right, and then come back to center. We're going to take your right hand, cross it in front of the left. Now, not too close because you don't get much of a stretch that way. Try a little bit further forward. And then tuck your toes and start to shift your hips back. Now, you can stay up on your hands here. You might come down to your left elbow or forearm, but try to keep that right elbow lifted. Because the idea is that we're starting to hopefully feel a long line through the right side of the body. You can take a little wiggle of your hips from side to side and see if there's an angle that feels a little bit more interesting, a little bit more delicious. And depending on what you've been doing or what indeed you haven't been doing lately, you might feel from your right pinky finger all the way across or down the arm to the right sit bone. Last breath here. All right, and then press yourself back up to center, little wiggle, or cat and cow to release. And then we'll switch sides. So left hand crosses in front of the right. Again, it could be close, but further away it is, the deeper the stretch will be. Tuck your toes and send your hips back. Now again, you might choose to stay up on your palms, or maybe you come down to the right forearm. You can take a little wiggle of the hips from side to side. But what we're looking for is some sort of stretch, maybe even a very long stretch down the entire left side of the body. Last breath here. Okay, slowly press yourself back up to center, little wiggle or shake or cat and cow. And then on your inhale, step or sweep the right foot forward. So coming to half kneeling, all of my props are of course way out of the way. If you want to bring some extra padding underneath your left knee, now is a good time to do that. And then come on up. Let's get into those hip flexors. So back out of the hips to start with. Hug the legs toward each other. Really squeeze the bum on the back leg. That's the most important activation here. Belly button to spine, shoulder blades on your back. Maintain all of those activations as you start to shift forward into the front knee. Just gently rest the palms on the front thigh. Back toes could be tucked or untucked. It might not change the sensation of the stretch for you. It might dramatically alter it. And then really squeeze the bum on the back leg a little bit more. You might press your palms forward to send your torso back, getting even more extension at the hip. Last breath here. All right, as you exhale, shift your hips back and extend through the front leg for half splits. So now we're getting into the back of the leg on the front leg. You could have, if you have a wall nearby, you could put a hand on the wall for stability, your hands on hips, maybe on blocks or on the floor. Wherever you are, I want you to keep a micro bend on that front knee so you're not locking it out. Wrap the back hip forward and draw the front hip back. Right? We have a tendency to kind of reach with that front leg. And then flare the toes on the front foot, peel them back toward your face even more. So you're getting into the calf muscles as well as the hamstrings. Belly button to spine. Now you might stay here with a really long spine, getting this sort of hip hinge sensation. Or you might start to drape forward, knowing that if you drape forward, it will intensify the stretch. So if you don't need it to be more intense, then don't drape forward. And just accepting wherever you're at today, right? This feels way tighter to me than it normally would. But such is the case when I've been sitting and doing nothing for a week. So last couple breaths here. All right, slowly come forward again, back into that front knee. Plant your hands and then sweep your right leg back underneath you. Little wiggle or shake or cat and cow. And then let's switch to the opposite side. So if you're using padding, bring it underneath the right knee and then step or sweep your left leg forward. Again, let's back out of the hips to start with. Hug your legs toward each other. Really squeeze the bum on the back leg. Nice tall posture as you start to shift forward into the front knee. You might play with tucking or untucking the back toes. But as soon as you lose the grip of the bum on the back leg, I want you to re-engage it, right? So keep squeezing the bum, because that's the activation that's really going to open the hip flexors a bit more. And you might press your palms forward to send your torso further back, but really keep squeezing the bum on the back leg. Little draw of belly button to spine. Last breath here. All right, as you exhale, start to shift your hips back and extend through the front leg. Again, for your half splits, hands can be wherever you want them to be. And keep wrapping the right hip forward as you draw the left hip back. And again, make sure there's a micro bend or even a deep bend on that front knee, particularly if you are feeling wobbly and you can't bring the fingertips to the floor. Bend your knee a little bit more so that you can. And you're still getting a stretch through the hamstrings, right? It's just closer to the origin than it is to the insertion. Flare the toes on the front foot and then peel them back toward your face even more. So getting into the calf muscles as well as the hamstrings. I was about to say this feels really good. Good is a weird, kind of a subjective term to be using here, but it definitely feels good to be moving anyway. Last few breaths here. Maybe you stay tall with the long spine. Maybe you drape forward. All right, and then slowly rock forward again, back into that front knee. Plant your hands. Bring your left knee back underneath you, hands and knees. Little wiggle or shake. And then shift your hips on one side so that you can swing your legs forward. And we'll come to a seated position. I'm sitting up on my chip foam block just to give my hips a little bit of a break. You could have your legs outstretched. You could sit like crisscross applesauce. You can do the heel tuck kind of yoga thing. It doesn't matter. Right? Sit however feels comfortable for you and wherever you can find a long spine. But practicing sitting on the floor, even with that little bit of lift, is really good for our bodies. Okay, anyway, let's get into the neck a little bit before we come back down to the mat. So gently bring your right ear to your shoulder. That's it, getting into the left side of the neck. This might be enough for you. If you'd like to deepen it, you could reach the left fingertips away from you on the mat. You might even gently add the weight of the right hands to your head without yanking or pulling, right? Because if all of a sudden your muscles have to contract to protect whatever movement is happening in your body, then you're not getting a stretch. I don't even need that hand today. And you might feel this across the shoulder and down the upper arm as well. It's totally normal. All right, maintaining this lateral flexion, just start to rotate your nose toward your shoulder. Tuck your chin under a little bit more. So now we're getting still the left side, but a little bit more posterior, a little bit more towards the back of the neck. If you have your hand on your head, it's almost like you're trying to smell your armpit. I know it sounds a bit crude, but hopefully it doesn't smell as crude as it sounds. Last breath here. All right, gently release your chin to your chest. Maybe you take a couple little loops of the shoulders or half moon circles of the head, or even just a little head bobble in the middle. And then we'll switch sides. So left ear to shoulder. Again, this might be enough. You could reach the right fingertips away or gently add the weight of the left hands to your head. Try not to round through your spine though, right? We really just want it to be the neck that has the flexion. I mean, I know the neck is part of the spine, but I think you know what I mean. And it's really super normal for one side to feel tighter than the other. So if that's the case, congratulations, you were human. If, however, you are equally tight on both sides, that's also pretty normal. If you slept strangely last night, then it's really common for one side to feel tighter than the other. Okay, maintaining the lateral flexion. Rotate your nose toward your shoulder, tuck your chin under a little bit more. Nice and long through the spine. Breath slow and sweet. All right, gently release your chin to your chest. Take a couple little half moon circles or a little head bobble. And then if your legs are crossed, you might want to change the crossing of your legs. I thought we would do a seated twist since we don't have a ton of time. So reach your arms up to the sky, and as you exhale, start to twist to the left here. So the left hand comes behind you, right hand comes in front. This right hip will want to sneak forward, so wrap it back in line. And you could press into the left fingertips to find a little bit more lift. And then as you inhale, come back to center, and then let's twist the opposite way. So twisting to the right. Again, make sure that left hip wraps back in line. You might look over your shoulder, or you might keep the head more or less in line with the rest of your spine. With every inhale, find a little bit more height. With every exhale, maybe you deepen the twist a little bit more. All right, on your inhale, come back to center. Shake everything out. Time to find your final resting pose. You could lie flat on your back if you wish. You could stay here in a seated meditation. You have lots of props. Excuse me. So go where you need to go. If, like me, you're coughing, maybe it would be better for you to stay seated. But there's no rush. But once you have found your final resting pose, once you've found it rather, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. And as you exhale, sigh your breath away. A couple more just like that. And then let go of your breath control. Return to your natural breath. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in your neck or your jaw. As you exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. And thoughts may come and go. Acknowledge them without judgment, but let them go. Let them drift by you like leaves on the wind. And stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.